So we really want to think about a 4-step process for climate change of doing all these 4 things and doing them in order. This is going to create meaningful, systematic climate change reform on every level. And if you look at a country like Germany, what did they do? They calculated their carbon footprint, they set some goals, and they did reductions, and then they measured it again to see how far they'd come. We need to start thinking systematically about climate change in the US if we're going to really make a difference. So the first part is calculating your carbon footprint. Since most of you have done this, we'll run through it real quickly. You go on a website like carbonfootprint.com. There's lots of great websites. Tell you where you live, how many people are in your family, and the period that you're going to do. Most likely it's going to be 1 year. It's very important to enter where you live and how many members are in your family because that really affects your carbon footprint. Then you just enter your bills, your energy bills for 1 year. Very simple. You just look at your bills, call your energy providers if you don't have your bills, look online, and enter them in there. Then the cars that you have, or no cars, or hopefully less than 1 car. Then you put your manufacturer, your mileage, and then it adds it to your carbon footprint. Then your flights. This is very hard for me because I travel around and give these talks a lot. An interesting thing to note that a lot of people haven't talked in the US is it's very important to put your landings because every time you have a layover, you are going to actually increase your carbon footprint. The other thing is how many people know what radioactive forcing means? 1, 2, 3. So when carbon emissions happen very, very high in the atmosphere, it actually multiplies the effect of the pollution to the atmosphere by a factor of 2. So if you want to be really honest about your carbon emissions, you're going to click that and it's going to double your emissions. Then your public transport. Then this is what I call your secondary carbon footprint. And a lot of websites don't include this. And if your website that you're using to calculate your carbon footprint doesn't have a screen that looks like this, get another website. Because this is very important. How much we recycle, what do we eat, what do we buy, what do we do in our life? This is going to be one of the highest factors in our carbon footprint because it's actually very little understood. Some studies were looking at just food. And they say the minimum carbon footprint for an American for food who even eats organic and local is about 6 tons. Most of these carbon footprints are just saying that it's a factor of like 1 ton. It's going to end up being a lot more than we think. So when we look at our totals, this was my carbon footprint about 8 or 9 years ago. So what are my total tons? How many?
15.8.
Yeah. Okay. What is the highest number here?
Flights.
Flights. What's the second highest number?
House.
House. What's the third highest number?
Secondary.
Secondary. Now, I would probably argue that this is very underrated on almost all websites, like I just said. So if I wanted to look at reducing my carbon footprint, where do you think I might want to start?
Flights.
Flights. Now, let's look at my footprint a few years ago at 16 tons, the average American at 20. The world target, anybody know the number? 2. 2 tons. Now this is me living in my hippy-dippy, ooby-groovy strawbell house and, you know, spending my whole life dedicated to climate change. This was about 8 or 9 years ago. And my carbon footprint is very high. I have a long way to go to get to here, which is why it's so important that the first step that everybody does is measure their carbon footprint. So now we're going to talk about reducing. So the highest number was, you guys said it, flights. So where do we start? Because we're going to change the way we think about climate change instead of just throwing darts in the air, deciding what number we should start with. So flights. What can we do? There's a lot of little things we can do, the most obvious being not flying. Little things like Korean Air and China Air are taking on campaigns to get people to pee before they get on the plane. It saved thousands, if not millions of tons of carbon by just peeing before you get on the plane. I'm not going to read through all these because you guys are very smart. The biggest thing that I look at is packing light, and one of the biggest reasons I started bike touring and carrying my own gear was that I am now really conscious about packing light, not only because I got to carry it on my bike, but I also have to carry it on the plane. So now we're back to reducing. What was the next highest number? House. For most Americans, house is going to be the highest number. So where do we start? We want to look at things that are actually going to pay back very quickly and not cost you a lot of money. So it's all the little things that you've all heard about. CFLs, LEDs, turning off our computers at night. Just little things, set back thermostats on our electricity use for both heating and cooling. These are things that are very easy to do, low cost, no cost, save a lot of carbon. Look at example, this is Patagonia corporate headquarters, their distribution warehouse. They changed out their lights to CFLs and they saved $110,000 a year. So we're talking about saving a lot of money, not spending a lot of money. Everything I hear in the US is about spending a lot of money. So we really need to think about process and having that low-hanging fruit, return on investment, things that are going to pay off. Turning off our computers, we just talked about that. Laptops over desktops, 400% savings. Energy management software, if you work at a business that turns off all the computers at night and backs them up at a certain time. These are things that can save company millions of dollars. Hidden loads. You guys are really well educated. Basically, you need to plug everything into a surge protector and then turn those surge protectors off at night. This is 10 to 15% of your bill because everything in the US just stays on all the time, even when you turn it off. Laundry. I started really thinking about laundry once I started bike touring and I've got to wear all these clothes over and over and over again. You guys will see me in the same outfit but with different variations. But going towards clothes that have less smell, that have to be washed less often, I actually bike toured these same clothes for 3 weeks without doing laundry and actually can tolerate myself, which is amazing because I'm a smelly person. Energy Star, very, very simple. They're upping the requirements right now for Energy Star and these Energy Guide stickers. When you're going to buy new appliances, you really can make a difference by buying the good appliances instead of the bad appliances. So buildings are very easy to tackle, even though people get very overwhelmed. The number one thing you can do is call your utility company and ask for a free energy audit. Almost, I would say 70% of the US now has a free energy audit, and you probably don't even know about it unless you've actually called. The other thing is if your company doesn't have a free energy audit, at least you're pushing them towards getting one by the fact that you made that call. My favorite test to ask for, if they don't have it, is this thermographic scan. The lighter colors or the redder colors are where the house is losing energy. And instead of just guessing where your house is losing energy, a quick thermographic scan is going to tell you where it's losing energy. And it's amazing if you do new houses, old houses. New houses are particularly exciting because there's all places that they have left out insulation that you don't even know about. Lighting is really exciting. We talked about for big businesses. I love the new Walmart in Las Vegas, if anybody's been in there. When you walk by the cooler, stealthily, when you walk by, then the light comes on. They have motion sensors next to the produce that don't actually turn on until you get there. It's brilliant. It's a huge payback for a company like Walmart. They're going to save millions and billions of dollars. So what's the next highest carbon footprint? Secondary. So we're thinking process, and you guys are going to start thinking about this when you calculate your own carbon footprint. Everybody's is going to be different. So secondary carbon footprint, these are things that we could all do, that all make sense, that the Brita Climate Ride is actually doing, in the fact that climatecounts.org has provided these awesome mugs for everybody. This is an insane amount of garbage that we're throwing out all the time. And the other thing is a simple thing like toilet paper. Greenpeace has an amazing guide on toilet paper. They always talk about Kleenex equals clear cut. It's very true. Every time you're wiping your ass, you're basically cutting down another tree. So make a difference, make good decisions. Plastic